At this time, if our Sergeant at Arms could start their recordings, please.
PC recording started.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Democratic Conference hearing. If you could all, once again, turn your videos on so we can verify everyone in the room. And we ask you to please silence all electronic devices at this time. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Speaker, we are ready to begin.
Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and your families are safe and healthy. I want to turn it over to the Majority Leader. Laura, you're on mute.
Welcome to this meeting of the New York City Council's Democratic Conference. My name is Lori Cumbo, and I am the Majority Leader of the New York City Council. We are here today to consider a candidate for appointment as a Democratic Commissioner of Elections for Kings County. The Brooklyn County Party submitted a certificate of nomination for Rodney L. Pepe Souvenir, Esquire, for this appointment. This position is to fill a vacancy created when John Flateau resigned as a Democratic Commissioner of Elections for Kings County on January 30th, 2020. Pursuant to New York election law, section 3-2045, the Kings County Democratic Party had 45 days to submit a certificate of party recommendation after the vacancy took place. Here, the Kings County Democratic Party did not file a proper certificate of recommendation within the statutory period. Therefore, according to New York election law, section 3-2044, we as the members of the New York City Council, who are members of the Democratic Party, may appoint an eligible person to fill this vacancy. Eligibility requirements are limited to being a registered Democrat and a resident of the county for which the person is nominated for appointment. The person appointed will fill the remainder of a 4-year term expiring December 31st, 2020. Commissioners receive a $300 per diem for each day of attendance at BOE meetings or any of its committees, with a maximum of $30,000 per year. Since Ms. Pepe Souvenir was put forward by the Brooklyn delegation of the New York City Council, she was subject to a full background investigation. No adverse information, conflicts of interest, or compatibility of office concerns were identified. Ms. Pepe Souvenir is a registered Democrat and a resident of Kings County, so she meets the eligibility criteria. Today's meeting will be governed by Robert's Rules of Order. Would any council members like to be recognized?
Madam Majority Leader?
Yes.
Councilmember Traeger wishes to be recognized.
I recognize Councilmember Mark Traeger, the co-chair of the Brooklyn delegation.
Thank you to the Majority Leader. Thank you to the Speaker and my colleagues. The one point of just also information that Ms. Souvenir's name was submitted, as mentioned earlier, to the City Council, as mentioned on the June 30th stated meeting agenda. I want to just mention that in addition to the fact that we are still through a pandemic and a lot of challenges in our city, there was also a transition of power within the Brooklyn Democratic Party this year as well. And I just want to speak to the fact, I know some of my colleagues have questions, very valid questions, but I just want to say this from my piece. I have reviewed carefully Ms. Souvenir's resume. I had a very long and good conversation with Chuck Davis, who I think the world of, and I think many of my colleagues as well. Her resume is powerful. It is strong. She is a Title IX coordinator in CUNY, which is a very vital position that many of us have fought for in the school system and in other public institutions. She has a background in equal opportunity work. in various levels of government, a law degree from Cardozo, and someone who really just speaks to, I think, a point of just compliance and respect and dignity. And quite frankly, I think the Board of Elections certainly needs a lot more folks with that level of expertise and qualifications. And again, this year has been challenging. There is no question that a lot of things are very different. But I am just going to speak to the fact that I have reviewed her resume. It is strong. I had a conversation with Ms. Souvenir. I had a long conversation with Chuck Davis. I know some of my colleagues have their views, and I want us to obviously to hear folks out and to respect folks' voices and views on this. But I believe that she is more than qualified for this position. And actually, I think many of us are indebted to folks like Ms. Souvenir, who has served this city well, effectively, and whose really resume has been impeccable. And if Chuck Davis could speak for a moment to, I think it's important for members to hear the outcome of his vetting and background research of her resume and of her background information. Chuck, can you speak to that, please?
Oh, yes, we conducted a full background investigation on Ms. Pep Souvenir. We verified what was listed on her resume. We found no conflicts of interest, no compatibility of office interests, or anything outstanding or anything adverse in her background investigation. And the background investigation was conducted well over 1 month ago.
Thank you. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you. Are there other members?
Councilmember Traeger, are you making a motion or did you just want to speak?
Well, I wanted to share that I have reviewed her information and I am in support of the nomination.
Okay, Majority Leader Cumbo. The next council member who would like to speak is Councilmember Barron.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Barron.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Good to see all my colleagues. Hope everybody's doing well. I have lots of issues, lots of questions, and lots of concerns about what we are doing. I got a text a few minutes ago, maybe an hour ago, from the candidate saying that she would like to speak to me. That would be fine. Why wasn't the candidate invited to come to the Brooklyn delegation to present herself so that those of us who don't know her would have an opportunity to not just review the resume? That's fine. I'm not questioning what's on paper. Glad to know that she's superlative on paper. I would like to have heard from the candidate. What are her plans, particularly at this time when we know that thousands of people had their votes disqualified through the absentee and the mail-ins? What are her plans? Does she see that as an issue? Does she have any idea about how that can be corrected in the next 3 months before we get to November? I have no idea of what it is that this candidate would like to offer as her platform for what she would like to do. When Dr. John Flatteau was named, and it's someone that I've known for over 40 years, he came before the body and had an extensive interview and was questioned by the body because we have legitimate concerns about what are your plans. I don't think we should be dismissive to say, oh, it's only 6 months. I think we need to set a clear tone that particularly at this time of the general climate where people are being disenfranchised, that we have a candidate who comes before us on the record to the full body and presents what she sees as her platform so that we can be assured that that's what her plan is moving forward and that there's some accountability at the end of that time as to how far she was able to achieve those objectives that she set for herself. I think that, I don't know if she asked for an interview or I mean, if she asked for a presentation to the body, I don't know if the body reached out to her. Those of us who have those timelines and understand what it is that's required, did we reach out to her? Was there some other reason that the candidate did not come? I have a lot of questions. I'm not willing to cast a vote for someone for such an important position, even though it's only 6 months, without knowing what that person plans to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Barron. Are there other members at this time who wish to speak?
Yes, Madam Majority Leader. Councilmember Reynoso would like to speak.
Thank you. For a point of clarification, Mr. Parliamentarian, when did the Brooklyn delegation submit this nomination to the City Council?
One moment, please, Councilmember. The certificate is dated June 13th, 2020, and it was stamped received by the Office of the City Clerk on June 25th, 2020.
By who signed it? And I guess who in the Brooklyn delegation forwarded this to the City Clerk?
The certificate is signed by Carlo Cicera, Chair of the Kings County Democratic County Committee.
Yeah, I understand that. You, in their opening statement, said it was forwarded to you by the Brooklyn delegation. I'm assuming the Brooklyn delegation is the council members of Brooklyn County, not the members of the Brooklyn party, or was that a misstatement by you?
I'm sorry, Councilmember, that may have been a misstatement. The certificate is signed not by the delegation, but by the county party.
Okay, thank you very much. And just more questions, Mr. Parliamentarian. The Brooklyn delegation does not need to forward or recommend this person for consideration by the Democratic Conference.
Correct. The Democratic Conference is not bound by the certificate that it received from the county party because the certificate was not timely.
Thank you. So to all my colleagues, I'm so nice to see you. I'm so glad you're here. I want to start off by stating that my statement and my regards for what's happening here is separate and aside from the candidate herself. From what I've noticed in her resume, she seems to be an extremely qualified person. I have no relationship with her. I've never talked to her. I was never asked to set up a meeting to allow for her to present in front of the Brooklyn delegation. Other candidates and other in these positions from other boroughs have gone through the Committee on Rules, Privileges, and Elections and were vetted to some degree by council members. This didn't happen here. I got notice of this candidate officially on Monday at about 3:30, and am now being asked to vote on somebody for a very important position. So I just wanted to read something that I just kind of put together right now. We're about to embark arguably on the most important election of our lifetime. This election will account for the largest absentee ballot operation ever in the city of New York. Our Board of Elections has yet to finalize the counting and calling of many local elections almost a month after primary day. The dysfunction of the Board of Elections is no secret to the countless council members that are sitting here in this Democratic Conference that constantly that do their work to oversee and hold accountable the executive director on a regular basis. These council members in this body are very well aware of the dysfunction of the Board of Elections, but we continue to allow for business as usual in regards to the process that appoints members to these positions. The process that allows for counties to make recommendations and not have to go through any local process, any formal process of educating oneself about who these candidates are by council members, and then using our authority our authority to put this person in place with practically no vetting happening by the larger body and by even the Brooklyn delegation who has yet to meet this person. This candidate should go through a democratic process that allows for transparency so the public could see who will be representing them. There's no reason why we cannot hold this vote back, allow for this candidate to go through a process that has existed internally here in the city council that has allowed for the rules, privileges, and elections to bring this person in, allow for Brooklyn members to meet this person, who I see as extremely qualified. But if we keep allowing for these processes to be the processes by which we are appointing people, then what we're doing is criticizing the Board of Elections without helping it. This person is about to go to the Board of Elections with many people under her that have been appointed as well that are underqualified. We're asking these people to turn around an agency in the city of New York without giving them any help, not looking for talent, not looking for people that are extremely capable, not looking for bureaucrats, but instead political appointments. And we're asking political appointees to fix this problem of elections that we have in the city of New York. That is an unfair request being made by the city council in light of the fact that we appoint these people with no communication to council members. And it is our vote. You're gonna vote on someone you've never met, you've never heard of. All you have is their resume that you probably received less than 2 days ago. I think we should think about postponing this vote, allowing for her to come before the Brooklyn delegation, Rules, Privileges, and Elections Committee, and then proceeding with a vote. And I feel confident in looking at her resume that she will do very well through that process. But the process is extremely important. The ends does not justify the means in this case. And I would actually like parliamentarian to make a motion that we suspend this vote until we're allowed to go through the proper process that allows for us to educate and inform ourselves about who exactly we're going to be appointing to an extremely important position of our time.
I'd like to second that.
Well, that was the first thing we needed, was a second. Madam Majority Leader, there's a motion on the floor to suspend. Councilmember Reynoso, would you be willing to call it a motion to recess?
Yes, I would like to call a motion to recess.
So, Madam Majority Leader, there is a motion to recess this meeting until a later point in time. Councilmember Reynoso, is there a particular point in time that you would like to recess the meeting to in your motion?
For me, is as fast as we can get her in front of the Brooklyn delegation and to the Rules, Privileges, and Elections Committee. If we can do that in 2 weeks, then I want it in 2 weeks. As long as those 2 steps are taken, I think that's a reasonable request and something that would allow us to ensure that the best candidate is being pushed for.
Okay. So, Madam Majority Leader, the motion on the floor is to recess this meeting until such time as the Brooklyn delegation has had an opportunity to meet with the candidate, and the candidate has gone through the Committee on Rules, Privileges, and Elections. As a point of parliamentary clarification, candidates for the Board of Elections typically do not go through the Committee on Rules, Privileges, and Elections. They go directly to the Democratic or Republican conference, but we can certainly decide exactly what the procedure will be later. The motion on the floor right now is a motion for recess.
Mr. Parliamentarian, I think what you stated an opinion. I disagree with you. In the city council, we've put forth a practice to allow for these candidates to be vetted by delegations. And I would ask any other delegation that has their Board of Elections representative. The Manhattan delegation was able to meet with their member. The Staten Island delegation was able to meet with their member. The Queens delegation was able to meet with their member. No, 1 second, James.
Okay.
The main thing that I'm trying to make here is that I agree, by state law, we're not breaking any rules. But I wanted to be clear that we've internally put a process that is more transparent and more democratic so that we can do better when we're electing these folks. So I just wanted to make sure that we clarify that while state law allows us to move forward with this meeting as is, that we internally, we're doing better. We've been doing better for a long time. And for it to just go away right now is something that is not acceptable. And I would also ask my colleagues from other boroughs You've got your opportunity to vet your people in a reasonable way. You got an opportunity to meet them. As a Brooklyn member, I just want to be able to sit in front of this person, ask basic questions, and then possibly move on. So I'm asking for you to allow us to just do that. And I hope that is a reasonable request.
I think if I could just jump in for 1 second, I think, you know, this group here, I don't know if it's appropriate for us to decide what goes before a delegation or not, but I'm not going to weigh in one way or another on that. But what I do want to say is this is not a council appointee, so it wouldn't go to the Rules Committee. Bringing this appointee to the caucus is a substitute, or the conference is a substitute essentially for the Rules Committee, because rather than being a council appointee, it is a Democratic conference appointee. So I just wanted to weigh in on the second part of what you asked for, Councilmember Reynoso. I'm not speaking as to the delegation part.
Thank you, James. And so remember, I just want to be clear. We've done that process, though. Even though it is not a formal process that needs to happen, we have vetted previous candidates through the Rules, Privileges, and Elections Committee. Am I incorrect in saying that? And if I am incorrect, then I think it suffices me to just have her come before the Brooklyn delegation, which I think could be satisfactory. But for my time, I guess, or maybe I'm incorrect, I thought they went to the Rules, Privileges, and Elections Committee. I remember the Bronx candidate going to the Rules, Privileges, and Elections Committee. So if you want to clarify, James, that I would love it, and I would be more than happy to change my motion if I get clarification.
Okay, no, let's get clarity on this from the person who knows best, who is probably Chuck and Lance.
Yes.
But I believe if the certificate...
Jim, excuse me 1 moment. I've been asked to pause the meeting just to make sure that we're following parliamentary procedure and that we're moving forward accordingly with this motion. So give us a moment to pause just to make sure that we're following the right guidelines according to this particular style of meeting in the Democratic Conference.
Of course, Madam Majority Leader.
The meeting will stand at ease.
Councilmember Reynoso, are you there?
Yes, Speaker.
So it's my understanding that the other nominations for other delegations did not go to the Rules Committee, but did go to delegations if those delegations chose to have those nominees come before them to have a discussion, as you outlined and as Councilmember Barron outlined. I would just say, I think that's appropriate. And if there was not the opportunity to do that, given that we were in the middle of a budget and given that there was a transition in the Brooklyn Democratic Party, I think it would be appropriate to find out a reasonable timeline for this nominee to come and meet with the members of the Brooklyn delegation, as you and Councilor Barron just outlined, to have that discussion, and for us to come back at the appropriate time after the delegation has had the opportunity to have an open discussion. It sounds like from what Councilor Barron mentioned when she spoke earlier, that this nominee, who I don't know, I haven't spoken to her, I've never met her, but it sounds like she is reaching out to have those conversations. So it sounds like it would be appropriate to have that in the forum of the delegation to be able to do that. So I'm not sure we need to vote. I mean, we can if you want on your motion. I think it would just be better for us to say here today, the council's going to instruct the nominee to do that. We're going to say, go meet with the Brooklyn delegation. And once the Brooklyn delegation can set up a meeting, have a conversation, then we can figure out when and if it's appropriate to come back to Democratic Conference after that happens.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Thank you so much, Speaker. I think that's exactly what I'm asking for.
Great. So I think that's what we should do. Other delegations have done that in the past. I think it makes sense to do that here. And
Mr. Speaker,
yes,
an easy way to do that procedurally would be to ask for unanimous consent.
do I have unanimous consent for us to take that route, that we instruct the nominee that they have to go meet with the Brooklyn delegation?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone object to that?
Aye.
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 Okay, great. So we're going to do it that
Wait,
way.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to ask, is there any time constraint that we may be missing
No.
by doing that?
There's no time constraint. We have time. That's why I think it makes sense to do it this way. And Chuck Davis will assist the Brooklyn delegation in setting up a meeting with this individual in a timely manner to be able to have that discussion. So no.
Mr. Speaker, the only time constraint that might be impacted is that they have to get everything ready for the November vote. And so I would ask that we would try to get this resolved quickly as possible, because there's a lot of moving parts to the November election.
Yeah, we will try to do this in an expeditious manner. After we hang up today, Chuck Davis will reach out to the nominee and to the co-chairs of the Brooklyn delegation to try to find a time for next week or the following week to actually have that meeting with the delegation to do it in an expeditious manner. Okay, so that's that. Thank you all very much. And we are going to now move into Democratic Conference. So Joanna, if you could let us know.
Yeah. Michelle, can you take us off live, please?